have you been treating all things equally so that you feel like you're putting out fires all day long?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or can you truly prioritize the things that matter and slow down to speed up?
Mm,
Slow down to speed
good.
up. Do 3 big things in a day along with whatever else is already on your calendar. Don't try to do
Yeah.
20 because that's
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those. Those are really
So,
good
yeah.
tips. You know, the couple of them that kind of jumped out at me. I think one of the things, even I'll say there's times for myself. I've always been a doer, right? I mean, that's always been. I can go back as
Yeah.
long as I've been in the working world, and I've been known as a doer. I can get things done, and I think one of the things that I really had to learn to do was to through move through my weeks in a different energy, right? Hello, my extraordinary women friends. How are you doing on getting all your plans in place for 2024? I am one of those entrepreneurs who loves to plan. I have been using the same year end planning framework that weaves together both soul and strategy for many years. I love to get introspective. I love to think big picture and to consider what initiatives, what things can I do in the new year that will really move the needle in my business. And then, yep, I love to get out and map the plan quarter by quarter, then month by month, and then week by week for the first 12 weeks of the year. It's so rewarding to put this into action. I shared this planning model in a year-end planning retreat that I do at the end of every year. And if you're still in the mode of planning, I'd be happy to share the recording with you. It will definitely give you a leg up on your plan, and it will help you get both insightful and soulful and listen to the inner wisdom that you have, but then also put the strategy behind it. Just drop me a message at info@camigellner.com and let me know you'd like the Soul Plus Strategy Planning Retreat recording. Would love to get it to you. And if you're like most entrepreneurs, I know one of the goals for the new year is to improve upon the efficiencies in your business, to help you work smarter, to be more productive, so that you have more time, prosperity in your business and your life. That's why I'm super excited to introduce you to Julie Miller Davis today. Julie works with business owners and leaders to reset their productivity patterns, to become more efficient, and bust through roadblocks to reach their goals with new levels of excellence. She has led and developed highly successful teams, helped hundreds escalate their own businesses, and achieve goals they may never have thought possible. Let's get your productivity on today, and let's meet Julie Miller Davis. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Julie. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Cami. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
fun. And I'm really excited to hear some of your stories. You and I have known each other for a long time, but it's like I don't know a lot of your startup stories and what got you to this place.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing that. And I admire your work so much in the world of productivity, and just I just know that's your sweet spot. So
Thank
and what
you.
a great time to be talking about it as we're kicking into the new year.
It is. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So let's start with your
Yeah.
story. Let's start with hearing how you got into this space that you're in the world of coaching and training, and just tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that journey.
So I was a high school English teacher for almost 20 years,
Yeah.
and um you know not everyone I've learned that not everyone operates like I do. Surprise, surprise, that I'm like some kind of freak, like efficiency productivity freak.
It's a good kind of freak to have.
But what I right away when I started teaching, what I found was that um a lot of teachers were spending like 15 to 20 hours outside of school time working on grading and planning and all of that. And I just, when I started teaching at 22, I really wasn't interested in spending all my free time.
You're like, there's got to be a better way.
Right. So I created a lot of systems and processes in my class with my students, and it afforded me time. So I was able to spend like 5 to 8 hours outside of school time working on school stuff, and then I really utilized my time very well with inside the classroom and during my planning time and with the students themselves. And so
Yeah.
created just a really strong um, culture of systems and processes and organization that really helped them. And then um, I was also volunteered for like almost 20 years at a leadership ranch where we taught the 7 habits of highly effective teens, and
Yeah.
which are the same as highly effective people, but it's a lot
Yeah.
easier book to read. and, uh, and then
I
and
love
then
that work, by the way. I mean, that's
yeah.
that's the work that really helped me get better at productivity years
Oh my
ago. Sarah
gosh.
Bonenkamp taught. She was a trainer in that space. And I don't know if you know
Hmm.
Sarah or not, but she was a trainer in that space for many years. And so we both started our businesses real close to the same time. And so she
Okay.
was teaching me a lot of that stuff. And it was
Yeah,
like,
and it just
it's good.
yeah, and the more I was facilitating it, the more I was internalizing it. And so and we taught like helping skills and negotiation skills and refusal skills to these kids also, which for teens is one thing. And then as I moved into like a business space, once I quit teaching, um I started realizing that as adults, especially women, we have trouble saying no. We have
And we're
trouble.
balancing so
We're
much, right?
balancing everything. We're
Yeah.
busy. Um, and I was just on a webinar that I gave about busyness, and like
I hate
we're
that word.
wearing this word busy as a badge
Yeah.
of honor, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. It
why?
doesn't do us any good. I don't even use
No,
I don't use the word busy. I'll say
I'm
it was a full week, or it's just I just won't use
yeah,
that word because it just feels like it's so heavy.
yeah. And it what does it mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that we did as much as possible and now we're exhausted.
And who
Like,
cares?
I
Exactly, right?
So
Exactly.
so I had another business before this one, and I
Or what
was
was that?
I was selling jewelry. I was doing
Okay.
home parties, yeah, when my son was in elementary school. And it was an accidental business. I wasn't looking for something, and it just sort
Yeah.
of came to me, and I started it during the recession. And I built a really big business
Uh-huh.
in those years to one of the top divisions in that company. And I was working 3 days a week, Cami. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't like, I'm raising this little boy,
Yeah. You
and
had
so I was
more
working
other
3, and
priorities.
yeah, and these women are working 7 days a week. Their calendar is wide open for anyone and everyone, and they're like, "How are you doing what you're doing at 3 days a week? You only work Sunday, Monday, and Thursday?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's when I work."
Yeah.
And so I started being brought in to speak at like leadership retreats and conference and things like that about calendaring. And so then I started really realizing that I'm a nerd in
It's
productivity.
like this is fun.
And then I started to really think about, well, that wasn't my end game. I'm a teacher at heart. So where can I
Yeah.
dig into being a teacher? And how can I still be a teacher without having to be back on a bell schedule? And I was in that entrepreneurial space. I was networking, and so I knew there was a need, and so I started taking all these tools from the 7 habits and from those from what I've learned in doing business, from teaching, and how could I develop something for business owners.
Yeah.
And so
Smart.
I created I thought I would have a year of residual income to figure it out. The company closed overnight, so I launched my
Oh
business in
wow.
like 4 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And just started
Nothing
out.
like a little pressure to,
Yeah,
say
right. My husband
you
was
got to do
like, my
something
husband
different.
goes, yeah, my husband goes, well, that little thing you've been thinking about? I guess the universe just kicked you in the butt. You better get going.
It just lined right up for you.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I ended up in this space, and the foundation of what I've created, where it
Yeah.
comes from.
Yeah. So, and you built a really successful business. I really love watching your business and, all that you're putting out there. What do you attribute some of your success, just, and building what you've built?
I think that in my life, my parents always um let me fail. And I think a lot of people are somehow their lives are failure free. I don't know how, but also in that they
I don't think
never
that's really true, by the way.
I don't either. I don't either. But
But yeah,
there was a resiliency that I wasn't allowed when I failed. I wasn't allowed to um just walk away. It was like, nope, you're going to get up and you're going to try that again. You're going to try that again. You're going to try that again with more information. And I tell a story in one of my talks about I used to compete in piano. And my very first piano competition, I would think I was 13 or 14, maybe less, maybe I was 12. But I forgot my sonata, like in the middle of it. I
yeah,
blacked out
yeah,
blanked out, I should say, not blacked out, blanked out. And I fought through it. And I mean, and I still got a pretty high rating from the judges, regardless of the fact that I blanked. But I fought through and got through it, and I
stayed
could
in
have
it.
never competed again because it was such a horrific experience. But,
Right.
I competed another 6 years and I was a ski racer. I fell in my first downhill. It was a pretty bad fall, and the next day my dad made me get back on the hill and race again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's a matter of the support system, I think,
That's a really
and
good point.
resiliency, and
Yeah.
the lack of fear. Like, you fail, so what? Like,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
you fit, and so many people say fail forward, right? So
Yeah.
you're failing forward. If you fail and you decide you're just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, or you're going to walk away because that one thing didn't go right, um it does not build that resiliency. And I think just from from growing up and the way that my parents supported me, and I think the way my friends also, I think it's a competition thing too, Cami. Like, I'm like, I'm pretty scrappy and I'm pretty competitive, not
Uh-huh.
necessarily with others, but like,
hmm
I'm gonna I'm gonna
You're
do
pushing
this.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
pushing yourself.
So that's
And
kind
that
of where it comes from.
that building that whole resiliency muscle is such a skill set. I mean, I grew up on horses, right? And so when you fell off the horse, you got back on the
Got back
horse.
on.
It's the same thing, so and I do think that we build that resiliency muscle over time. How do we, today? I mean, and there's so much stuff that goes on around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, how do we continue to build that resiliency muscle? What are some ways that you feel like has worked for you?
I think that it's important that um we acknowledge the blow that we feel.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really important to be like, that really, I'm sorry for lack of a better word, that really sucked.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
No.
not,
Exactly.
that was awful. It was not
Mm-hmm.
fun. It was not good. It was
Yeah.
whatever it was, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that, and acknowledge that it didn't feel good and that you're sad or mad or frustrated by it, right? So we have to acknowledge that, first of all, and not just gloss over it, because it'll come back to bite us if we
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And then I
Totally.
think it's really important. What I teach is, I call it the circle of control. And so it's important then to say, hey, so what did happen? And then acknowledge our part in it. Because I think to build resiliency, we have to take responsibility for whatever
Ooh, I
happened. And we
like
also have
that.
to take um, like a pat on the back if it went well. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have to take credit. But we also have to take responsibility. So it's asking that, what what part did I play in that?
Right,
And
right. I
now
like that.
between,
That's a really
yeah,
good point because it's so often people are wanting, and you see this, people wanting to put it on somebody else or on
we
something
blame.
else.
Yeah, we
Right.
blame.
The situation, the circumstances, other people. But really owning that part of it can be a powerful shift inside of us.
It is. And it's not always an easy question or
Yeah.
an easy mirror to look in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
and acknowledging what wasn't in our control also. Like, so what part did I play and what wasn't in my control? I can't control what other people did. I can't control what they didn't do. I can't control other people's emotions. I can't control the weather, the economy, the, you know, whoever, whatever. But I can control, what can I control? And
Right.
I can control my response to whatever it is that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And then I think too, Cami, it's that resiliency comes in the assessment of what can I do differently.
Okay.
Why did that go wrong? Why didn't it go as well as I wanted? What can we do differently?
Yeah.
So, then it's a
And then you get
tweak.
back on the horse then.
It's a tweak instead. Yeah, it's a tweak instead of a I'm never riding that horse again, right?
Right, right, right. Exactly. I love that. I love it. Or get back on the skis or get back on whatever that is
Whatever
for
it
you.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So you've probably heard me talk about time prosperity and wealth prosperity, and I've really been
Mm,
on this mission to change the way business is done for women. And I think you are the same way. I mean, I think this is a common value that we have is that
mhm.
building businesses that aren't taking 7 days a week, that aren't um, so
Yes.
when you think of time prosperity and wealth prosperity together in a
Mhm.
sentence, what comes up for
Mhm.
you? What are some of the things that you teach that really attribute to that?
So if I think about time prosperity, there's a phrase I say, that is that freedom comes in the plan. And people feel that if they have a plan, if there's a plan, that they're losing freedom,
Oh God,
right?
no,
That there's no wiggle room,
I love
and
plans.
there's no so do I. I'm a planning
Yeah,
freak. So it's they feel like there's no flexibility or fluidity.
yeah,
And the truth is if there's a plan, there's an ability to adjust the
yeah,
plan. There's an ability to create space within the
yeah.
plan. And time prosperity is about space, right?
Spaciousness,
It's
energy,
about
how you move, right? I mean,
yeah.
actually, it's like that energy of how we
Yes.
move between meetings and how we create white space
Yes.
for big picture thinking, all those sorts of things. But the
This
plan allows for that, right?
unrestrictiveness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
100%. If we don't plan to spend time dreaming and scheming about our
yeah,
businesses in that white
yeah,
space, and we don't plan white space, it will
yeah,
never happen.
yeah. Totally,
It
totally.
won't. If we don't plan um to have
Yeah,
Fridays off, then it will never
yeah,
happen
yeah,
because there's always something that will come up. So time prosperity, it also creates wealth prosperity because you are able to create you're creating space that allows you to have time to dream and scheme and put um, things into motion that you don't otherwise have time for, which creates wealth. And whether wealth might be time
yeah,
for you,
yeah.
like time
Wealth
might
can
be
be
the
all kinds
wealth.
of
It
things.
doesn't have to be
Exactly.
money, right? It can be
Yeah,
health, it could be whatever that is. And so to me, um they're totally interrelated, but if you're thinking even of wealth as money, then um that space and that time prosperity, that time, that planning that creates the space to implement the big
yeah,
ideas that you
hmm,
have, that's going to create the wealth that you
yeah,
want, if it's money. And if you're planning and you're putting in space for yourself, for your family, for whatever the things are, that's also wealth
totally,
prosperity.
totally,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So let's dig into some of your productivity wisdom. So as we're really moving into this new year, and people are in the space of thinking about the new year and the things that they want to be doing different. What are some of the things that some of our listeners could be doing in this new year to make this year more productive than it was last year?
I think that it's very important to assess um, how you operate. So, what are the phrases you use? Is it "I'm so busy"? How are you? I'm busy. How are things? Oh, busy.
Our words matter.
Um,
Our words really matter when it comes to that.
yeah, catch yourself, and I would like you to think about also if listener, you being the listener, um, think about how you have felt in the last year. Were you overwhelmed? Were you stressed out? Were you sleeping or not sleeping?
Yeah.
Did you have time for yourself and for your family? I should say guilt-free
Yeah.
time, because so many people are spending time with their family or friends and thinking they should be working, or they're working and they're thinking I should be with my family, or I should be
Yeah.
doing this, right? And so it's a sickness, really,
Mm,
and it causes physical
right.
ailments. But I believe going into the new year, if you can't, we have to sometimes look back to look forward, right? So we have to look at where we
Hmm.
were in the last year, even the last
Yeah.
quarter of the year, and what can you do differently this year? And for me, that comes with, um, are you, have you been acting without boundaries? Have you been hijacking your own time or letting others hijack it so that you are off course and off kilter and now you're having to work nights or weekends? And also, are you um are you willing to look at things differently and stop treating all things equal? Have you been treating all things equally so that you feel like you're putting out fires all day long?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or can you truly prioritize the things that matter and slow down to speed up?
Mm,
Slow down to speed
good.
up. Do 3 big things in a day along with whatever else is already on your calendar. Don't try to do
Yeah.
20 because that's
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those. Those are really
So,
good
yeah.
tips. You know, the couple of them that kind of jumped out at me. I think one of the things, even I'll say there's times for myself. I've always been a doer, right? I mean, that's always been. I can go back as
Yeah.
long as I've been in the working world, and I've been known as a doer. I can get things done, and I think one of the things that I really had to learn to do was to through move through my weeks in a different energy, right? Move through like where I was
Mm,
really being conscious of where I'm making the space, how I'm breaking things out, where I'm making boundaries.
yes.
And there's times where I fall back into old patterns. It's really easy to fall back into old patterns.
So
Yeah,
easy. Yeah, because we're creatures of
right,
habit,
right.
right? And those are ingrained
Yeah,
in us.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the wisdom you would give around, how do you keep from falling back into old habits?
That's such a good question. And it's what it's a lot of what I
Yeah,
teach is around
yeah,
habits, right? And so what's important is that we're um, intentional and conscientious about the new things that we're putting into place. So, and we have to become aware of what the habits
yeah.
are. Right? Do I have a habit of multitasking?
Mm,
Do I have a habit of procrastinating? Do I have a habit
those are
of
great ones.
surfing the
Right.
web?
Yeah,
Yeah, or surfing social media. Like, what are the things that I'm doing? And so, even so, if we can become aware, I think awareness is 50%
yeah,
of
yeah,
this whole
yeah,
battle. Um, then, when we are putting new practices into place, new routines, new practices, new tools, whatever it is into place, if we're aware, then when that old habit rears its ugly head, you go, hey, wait
recognize
a
that.
minute. That's how I used to do things. Hold
Yeah,
on. I do it like this
yeah,
now. So let's put that back away so that I can do it the new way now. So um the stat is that 40% of what we do every day is out of
yeah,
habit without thought or
yeah.
intention, right?
That's a
40%.
lot.
That's so
Yeah,
much. And think about it. How many times do we drive home or drive somewhere that we usually go and we have no idea? Like, we're like, oh
yeah,
my God, did I stop at
yeah,
all the lights? Like, I don't even know how I got here.
yeah. Totally.
So if we can actually, if we can lessen that
Yeah,
percentage and become aware, even for 2, 3
yeah,
weeks, become
yeah,
aware, like, what am I
yeah,
doing? Then we can start putting those new things in place and we create that awareness so that we can
yeah.
catch it when it goes back.
Such good advice. I've been taking the Sounds True Inner MBA program. It's a 10-month program,
Mm,
and
okay.
love it. It's so good, but it's the whole first 3 months of it was very much about awareness of how we're showing up, and
Mhm.
it's just such good practice to pay attention and to make these pauses and to say, where am I in this moment? Um,
Yeah.
so always learning, right? Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, the other one I had was boundaries. Because I think that's
Hmm.
such a huge one for women entrepreneurs is setting up strong boundaries. And
Yeah.
so any just wisdom on boundaries.
I think the place to start is actually, we're I talk a lot about how we hijack our own
Yeah.
time. We are we are infringing on our own boundaries.
Totally.
And we're letting
Yeah.
we are like we're letting things
Yeah.
in. We're letting people in, we're letting text messages in, we're letting emails in, and we're being driven like Pavlov's
Yeah.
dog through
Yeah.
this life, especially the more tech we
Where do you
have,
put your boundaries
right?
up? What are some of the boundaries you do?
Um, I don't have any
Yeah, I don't
notifications
either.
coming through on
Yeah.
my phone. Zero. Zero is
Hmm.
turned on, and my ringer's never on.
Yeah.
I check my phone when I check
Yeah.
my phone. Um, and my boundaries then are also around my my office
Mhm.
hours. What time I get up in the morning and when I start working and when I'm done working. And I think it's really important as entrepreneurs that we set that, because how many of you are like done to go have dinner at 5 or 6, and then you come back to work at 7 or 8, or you
Yeah.
put the kids down and then you
Yeah.
come back,
Yeah.
right? It's when are you
Yeah.
working, and make that when you
Yeah.
work. And then also just these boundaries of I'll just give a
Yeah.
story if you
Totally.
don't mind,
Yeah.
really quickly. My husband and I both work from home, and he loves to come in and chat with me.
My husband walked in my office yesterday and I was right in the middle of something. I just looked at him. I was like, yeah.
So while I'm working, he comes in and he like takes a seat, and he's like, I'm like, dang, dude, I'm
Yeah.
working. And so it was having a conversation like, hey, um, I wonder if we could set up a agreement where if you want to chat, just let me know, and when I'm done with what I'm doing, I'll come down
Yeah.
and see you and talk to you. And so it's having those um conversations, not in an angry
Yeah.
way or in a,
Yeah.
like, can't you see I'm working or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. It's really about how do we preset boundaries so that we know, even if you have a little kid,
Yeah.
hey, mommy's got to work for 20 minutes. We're going to set this timer. And or if my door is
Yeah.
shut, although my rule was when my door is shut, I'm working, don't come in. My son would come in still, and he still does at 21 years old, writes on my whiteboard whatever he needs. I'm like, dude, I'm running a class here. Like,
Sure, it's writing over on your board.
but it's just, it's for me, it's really around when I'm working, I'm working.
Yeah.
I decide when I check email. I decide when I answer the phone and answer text messages. I
Yeah.
decide. And we don't have to have everything at our beck
Yeah.
and call.
And even my, like, for example, I don't leverage text much in my business. I like very few people have my text number because I
Hmm.
just don't feel like that's where I want to be. I don't want to communicate. So I choose to communicate in other places. Now,
In
and
other
so it's
places.
we can make those kind of
Yeah,
choices. So yeah, yeah,
we
I
can.
love it. I love it. I
We
love it.
can.
So what are you most excited about in this new year for you?
Oh gosh. We just launched there's a lot of things in business that I'm excited about. We just launched a self-study course, and there's some other growth opportunities that we have in the business right now. But I think for me, my word for the year is
Ooh, I like it.
abundance. And so for me, it's really, how do I step into
Mhm.
that? And when I talk about abundance, it's not it's abundance of joy, abundance um of relationships, is abundance um of
Yeah,
service, abundant, and so, and then I am very excited in business wise for, we're going kind of a different direction with some of my speaking. So it's the in search of
oh,
stages
nice.
and different places to different pools to play in, and just trying to expand the reach a little
Excellent.
bit,
I love it
or
a
a
lot.
lot.
I love it. I love it. And where can people learn more about you and your business?
Yeah, I would love for any or all of you to find me on LinkedIn is a great place to find me, which is just LinkedIn. Find me under Julie Miller
Mhm.
Davis. And if you want to check me out and like really find me, you can go to my website, which is juliemillerdavis.com.
Excellent. I love it. And the final question I always close with are what are three pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with us today?
Oh, three pearls of wisdom. Number one, what I want to tell you all is that there is enough time. There is enough time. You have enough
Good
time.
one.
You do. The second one is that the second one I would say is that I would like to have you all fill your cup first. Schedule yourself first. Fill your cup
That's a good
first.
one. Especially in the new year.
And third,
You coming into it, just
yeah,
make that a
yeah,
habit.
put it on your
Yeah,
calendar
yeah.
first. Yeah, yeah. And then third, instead of being so task oriented, be goal oriented
That's a good one.
when you're thinking about your
Yeah, I
day.
love that. I love that. Well, Julie, this has been so much fun. Thank you for sharing all your good wisdom, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me,
You bet.
Cami. This was
Yeah.
fun.